Today, the Matt Walsh Show, just about every celebrity in the entertainment industry has now come out in favor of Kamala Harris. What does that tell us about her? Also, my new film, Am I Racist?, continues its hot streak at the box office in its second week of release. Even The Hollywood Reporter is now taking notice. And the feds have released a letter from Trump's latest attempted assassin where he puts out a hit on President Trump. Why in the world would they make that public? In our Daily Cancellation, a prominent CNN commentator is called out for hitting on a Republican congresswoman behind the scenes. He attempts to defend himself against the accusation, but only makes it considerably worse for himself. We'll talk about all that and more today on The Matt Walsh Show. We're just 42 days away from the most pivotal election of our lifetime, and the truth has never been more critical. With Daily Wire Plus, you get uncensored daily shows from the most trusted voices in conservative media, live breaking news, hard-hitting investigative journalism. Don't wait. Subscribe now at dailywire.com/subscribe and stay informed. Grand Canyon University is a private Christian university located in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. GCU believes that our Creator has endowed us with certain unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They believe in equal opportunities and the American dream is driven by purpose. GCU equips you to serve others in ways that promote your flourishing, which will create a ripple effect of transformation for generations to come. Whether you're pursuing a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, Grand Canyon University's online, on-campus, and hybrid learning environments are designed to help you achieve your degree. GCU has over 330 academic programs as of September 2023. GCU will meet you where you are, provide a path to help you fulfill your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. Find your purpose today at Grand Canyon University, private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu. That's gcu.edu. There's an inevitable moment in every presidential campaign when the entertainment industry gets together and tells us to vote for the Democrat. It doesn't matter who the candidate is or who they're running against. In every case, Hollywood tells us the choice is supposedly between the fascist and whatever candidate Democrats are running. 24 years ago, Al Gore was touting the endorsements of Kevin Costner, Tom Hanks, Jerry Seinfeld, Sharon Stone, Robert De Niro, Harrison Ford, and so on. Barack Obama took things to another level, as we all remember, bringing in endorsements from Oprah, throwing concerts featuring Bon Jovi and Mariah Carey. They all told us that we need to turn the page on the neocon Dick Cheney era of foreign policy because Dick Cheney represented a greater evil than Hitler and Satan combined. Well, after last week's Oprah infomercial for Kamala Harris, it's clear that it's time for Harris to collect the endorsements that she's apparently entitled to. Kamala started her campaign with the blessing of Beyonce and, of course, the luminary known as Megan Thee Stallion. And then there was the Taylor Swift endorsement a week ago. But with the Oprah infomercial, things really took off, along with representatives from the racially segregated groups Black Women for Harris, White Dudes for Harris, White Women for Harris. Celebrities like Julia Roberts and Meryl Streep and Bryan Cranston and Chris Rock and Ben Stiller and Jennifer Lopez all hopped on the Zoom call to express their support for Kamala Harris's campaign. The expected rash of celebrity endorsements is officially pouring in. What's interesting about these endorsements is that all of these celebrities are now on the side of Dick Cheney's preferred candidate. They're also campaigning on behalf of a candidate who was just endorsed by hundreds of former high-ranking national intelligence officials at the CIA and the Pentagon, along with a union affiliated with the IRS. So these celebrities have gone from raging against the neocon establishment machine to campaigning on behalf of it. You know, it's like watching a vegan activist get a new job as a Burger King spokesman. It's not impossible to imagine, but you know, you'd probably ask yourself, how did that happen exactly? What are the lucid, rational arguments that celebrities are making in order to justify this massive reversal of everything they once claimed to believe? Well, a few days ago, the latest celebrity to endorse Kamala Harris, Hayley Williams, who's the lead singer of the band Paramore, did not provide any lucid, rational arguments to support her decision. Instead, at the iHeartRadio Music Festival in Las Vegas on Friday, she made it clear why Donald Trump has to stand inside a case of bulletproof glass every time he speaks in public now. Watch.
Project 2025 is Donald Trump's playbook for controlling and punishing women, poor people, people of color, and the LGBTQ+
So this is nothing really new from Haley Williams, who's been struggling for relevance lately. The band's not generating hits anymore, so she's lashing out. A year ago, she attacked all of her fans who supported Ron DeSantis, saying that they're dead to her. And she, mixed in some profanity for good measure, of course. And now we have this supposedly spontaneous moment where she rambles like a lunatic about Project 2025 and how Donald Trump hates poor people and the, quote, LGBTQ plus community. Now, 20 years ago, when celebrities had public meltdowns like this, they were talking generally about things that were really happening, like the war in Iraq. But now they're on the side of the Defense Department and the IRS union and the military-industrial complex. So that means they can't criticize wars anymore. So instead, they're, giving us this delusional stuff about Project 2025 and everything else. But this particular rant was even more embarrassing than it looks because it wasn't even spontaneous, really. It was scripted. Some guy was apparently holding up a piece of paper that Haley Williams was reading from. Watch.
Project 2025 is Donald Trump's playbook for controlling and punishing women, poor people, people of color, and the LGBTQ plus community. It is time for all Americans to band together and to finally defeat the Trump agenda. And the only way to do that is by confronting him at the polls. Do you want to live in a dictatorship? Well, show up and vote!
Okay, so literally reading the DNC talking points memo, like printed out and just reading it during her concert. So she couldn't even speak off the cuff for 30 seconds, 30 seconds, about why people should vote for Kamala Harris. You think that if you were the kind of entertainer who wanted to use your concert to promote a political message, then you'd at least, have some of the talking points down, especially when they're pretty simple. Donald Trump is evil. He's a dictator. He wants to, destroy your rights and all that. You should be able to say that without having to read it off a script. You think you'd be comfortable enough with your beliefs that you could articulate them without needing to read them off a piece of paper, and maybe you'd even have something remotely interesting to say, but none of that happened here. And this has become something of a trend for celebrities who are coming out for Kamala Harris. A couple of weeks ago, the Hulk actor Mark Ruffalo had his own meltdown. He was specifically upset about Elon Musk because he's one of the few wealthy celebrities who hasn't fallen in line. Watch.
Elon Musk is such a two-faced turncoat traitor because he was a climate champion and he sold himself out for a buck and some power. Don't follow that guy. That guy doesn't even have his original accent anymore. Don't follow him. Don't listen to him. We're the ones who we have to believe in. We're the ones who we're waiting for, and we are the ones that have to move forward together.
He sold himself out for a buck and some power, says Mark Ruffalo. It's too bad he didn't elaborate on that point because it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Elon Musk is being investigated by numerous federal agencies who want to sanction him and destroy his companies solely because he's allowing people to speak freely on the internet. His purchase of Twitter appears to have lost him billions of dollars by conservative estimates. So who exactly did Elon Musk sell out to? Instead of answering those questions, Ruffalo instructs his audience, don't follow him, don't listen to him. We're the ones we have to believe in. We're the ones we're waiting for. Then he mocks Elon Musk's accent for some reason. This is a guy whose most noteworthy achievement in life is pretending to be the Hulk. And he doesn't even really pretend to be the Hulk because when Hulk's on screen, that's CGI. So he is not even doing that. And he's attacking someone who's built several successful companies in this country. SpaceX is now rescuing astronauts that the government, contractors like Boeing got stranded in space. They're trying to build colonies on Mars. Tesla, meanwhile, is an electric car manufacturer that makes the best-selling car in the world. Especially if you care about carbon emissions, as people like Mark Ruffalo claim to, then you should be very happy about that. But Mark Ruffalo is not happy because Elon Musk isn't voting for Kamala Harris. Therefore, he's a traitor. This is the kind of celebrity endorsement that Harris's campaign is now receiving. They're even more unhinged than what we're used to, and we're getting a lot of them. If he counts as a celebrity, which I don't think he really does, but we'll throw him in anyway. Bill Nye also put out a video endorsing Kamala Harris a couple of days ago. And while he's a little less vulgar than the Paramore singer and a little less insulting than Mark Ruffalo, it's still pretty hard to watch. Bill Nye is a 68-year-old man who most adults recognize from his show in the 90s, which was designed for elementary school students. And yet, Bill Nye is still effectively in character, pushing 70 now, still talking to his audience as if they're still a bunch of children and not like millennials, because that's who his audience is now, to the extent that he has an audience. Watch.
Greetings, Bill Nye here. Vice President Harris knows science rules. The other guy is a climate change denier. He said he thinks that sea level rise will create more beachfront property.
But they talk about an ocean that's rising, which will give you slightly more beachfront property if it happens.
That's not how it works. Look, President Biden and Vice President Harris have made the biggest climate investments in history. When she's president, Kamala Harris will continue the work to address climate change. We cannot afford to have a climate change denier back in the White House. So everybody vote. Vote with the climate in mind, and we can change the course of history.
So Bill Nye says Vice President Harris knows science rules, and then Kamala Harris's campaign account tweeted out this video with the message, science rules. So it's like we're back in 5th grade again, infantilizing doesn't even really begin to describe it. Then Bill Nye praises Harris for passing the biggest climate investment ever, which is a reference to the Inflation Reduction Act, a law that, as the name implies, was supposedly about reducing inflation, but which they've now repeatedly admitted was really just a Trojan horse for this climate stuff. And now they're admitting that it was, just actually printing a ton of money to spend on climate investment, which, of course, made inflation worse, which is why Kamala Harris is now talking about price controls. We're told by Bill Nye, the aging adult man who still pretends that he's talking to children, that a whole bunch of spending is necessary because the climate is changing very quickly and it's all our fault. That's the assumption that people like Bill Nye have made for a very long time, even though there's no reason to think that it's true. In fact, there's new evidence that suggests the opposite. It comes from the journal Science. Here's how the Washington Post reported on the data a couple days ago, quote, an ambitious effort to understand the Earth's climate over the past 485 million years has revealed a history of wild shifts and far hotter temperatures than scientists previously realized. The timeline, published Thursday in the journal Science, is the most rigorous reconstruction of Earth's past temperature ever produced, created by combining more than 150,000 pieces of fossil evidence with state-of-the-art climate models. It shows the intimate link between carbon dioxide and global temperatures and reveals that the world was in a much warmer state for most of the history of complex animal life. And then here's the graph that the researchers came up with. And as you can see, according to this model, this planet has previously experienced much warmer temperatures and much more dramatic temperature increases than what we've seen in recent times after the Industrial Revolution. We're actually at a relative low point for global average surface temperature right now. And of course, if you ask the Bill Nyes of the world, they'll find a way to spin this data. They'll tell you that things are getting too hot too quickly and so on. But as these climate researchers admit, at a minimum, this data was shocking to them. They had no idea that temperatures were so hot long before Americans were driving pickup trucks and using gas stoves and all the rest of it. So you think that maybe some humility would be called for at this point, but we won't get any humility from Bill Nye, nor should we expect any. After all, this is a science guy who doesn't understand the basic facts of human biology and reproduction, let alone climate. So his endorsement of Kamala Harris is no surprise. But there is a bigger issue here for Kamala Harris. Even the relatively sane celebrities in her corner still aren't helping her very much. According to the Financial Times, quote, an ABC News Ipsos poll published on Sunday found that 81% of voters said the endorsement of Kamala Harris by Taylor Swift would make no difference in how they cast their ballots. Just 6% said it would make them more likely to vote for Harris. Another 13% said it would make them less likely to support the vice president. In other words, Taylor Swift's endorsement, if you believe that poll, which was not exactly a poll skewed for conservatives, may have done more harm than good for Kamala Harris. And if Taylor Swift didn't help, I mean, you can imagine, whether Bill Nye or Mark Ruffalo or Haley Williams can help. And there are a few reasons why this might be happening. But the most obvious explanation is that, these celebrities are not respected anymore. They've become too political, too dumb, too shrill. They're also not expected to uphold any kind of ethical standards. In the 1960s, an actor was fired from Perry Mason because the cops found him at a party where they suspected adultery was going on. And, well, we've come a very long way since then. Now, according to the government, entertainers like Sean Combs, a.k.a. Diddy, can engage in widely known criminal conduct for more than a decade before anyone does anything about it. He could publicly brag about his sex parties and how he hangs out with unsupervised underage children like Justin Bieber and Usher. And then he could hold a town hall with Kamala Harris about COVID and get a big thank you from her, and no one thinks anything of it. That's because we're now accustomed to the fact that insanely wealthy, out-of-touch degenerates always line up behind the Democrat nominee. And these celebrities have become so repulsive that their behavior is now a clear and direct reflection on the candidate they're endorsing, especially since Kamala Harris is embracing all those endorsements. Now, to be clear, there are a lot of reasons not to vote for Kamala. The fact that she's endorsed by a bunch of celebrities isn't at the top of that list, but, I mean, it's on the list. She is beloved by debauched elitists, not to mention she's favored by all of the most powerful institutions in America. Is that because she's a middle-class kid who has the best interests of the average American at heart? Well, that's a question the Kamala Harris campaign would rather you didn't ask, but the more these celebrities weigh in on the presidential race and the more they angrily read the DNC talking points that are shoved in front of them, the more obvious the answer becomes. Now let's get to our 5 headlines. As another election looms, we're reminded how quickly our nation can change course, making it a perfect time to think about our family's financial future. This is where Policy Genius comes in, the country's leading online insurance marketplace with experts ready to help you secure your family's financial future quickly and efficiently. Sure, you might have life insurance through work, but that's like depending on Social Security for your retirement. It might not be there when you need it most. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. Remember, Policy Genius works for you, not the insurance lobbyists or bureaucrats. That means they don't have the incentive to recommend one insurer over another. So while you're exercising your right to vote for a stronger America, let Policy Genius help you exercise your right to protect your family's future, because true freedom includes the peace of mind that comes from knowing that your loved ones are secure. Policy Genius makes choosing the right policy for your family quick and easy. Be ready for the future with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/Walsh or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/Walsh. All right, so our film, Am I a Racist, just completed its second weekend in the box office. Still has not gotten a single review from a single mainstream film critic. But weirdly enough, it has been covered, even covered favorably by a few mainstream outlets. So this is the strange dynamic that's happening here, where not only do we have this successful film that these critics are ignoring, but in some cases, their publications are not ignoring it, but they just will not, being the critics, review the film as a film. So the Wall Street Journal, for example, has published 2 op-eds praising the film, nothing from their film critic. Variety had a good piece on the film, at least one. Nothing from the film critic, though. And The Hollywood Reporter, of all things, just published this on Friday. Not a film review exactly, but a great headline. The headline is, How Am I Racist Scored the Top Political Doc Opening in 20 Years by Duping DEI Gurus. Conservative provocateur Matt Walsh's film came out of nowhere to gross $4.5 million in its nationwide box office debut over September 13th to 15th weekend, a huge sum for a nonfiction feature. And by the way, when this piece was published, we actually had to go back and look it up because I didn't think we had the top opening for a political doc in 20 years, but apparently we did. So it checks out. That's a rare thing when I don't think it's ever happened before that a mainstream publication has said something positive related to anything that I've done that I had never even thought of. Because usually they don't say anything positive at all. But in this case, it does check out. And then I'm not going to read the whole piece because that would be rather self-congratulatory, I suppose. But you could go check it out. It is an interesting piece. And it's mainly interesting because I read the whole thing waiting for the jab to come. I figured they have to hit you somewhere, even if just symbolically. Throw in a line like, sure, Walsh is an incorrigible bigot, and I was waiting for that. It didn't really come. The piece mostly just marvels at the success of the film. Success, by the way, that continued this weekend. So this is after our second weekend in the box office. Am I Racist is still in the top 10, even after a whole bunch of other films were released, including the new Transformers movie. We now have, along with the top political doc opening in 20 years, we have our total gross puts us in the top 5 for political documentaries in the past 10 years, total gross. Top documentary of the year, we've earned back 3 times our production budget, $9 million we've earned so far. Budget was $3 million. And this is the one that's most impressive to me personally, that our box office total puts us in the top 40 now for all documentaries of all time, and counting. So we're obviously still in the box office, moving into our 3rd week. So all those numbers will go up. But if it ended here after 2 weeks, we'd have to call it a major win in just about every way. And I know I've talked a little bit about the challenges of succeeding in the box office when you have a documentary that's very difficult to garner any kind of audience for a film, for a nonfiction film, as the Hollywood Reporter notes. When you have an original film, not like a franchise or a well-known IP, that's an additional challenge. And when you have a very small budget, it's a very small budget by film industry standards, that's the biggest challenge of all. Just for example, I was watching MasterChef with my kids over the weekend. We do cooking shows. We like the cooking shows. And there was a trailer for Joker that came on during every commercial break. There's 5 commercial breaks. 5 times we saw this trailer in the span of 50 minutes. Okay? And that's the kind of marketing budget that big studios have. They're going to make sure that like every human in the country has seen the trailer, whether they want to or not, one way or another. But that costs tens of millions of dollars, if not $100 million to achieve. And we don't have that. So we've had to come up with more, you might say, lo-fi, guerrilla-type marketing techniques. Crashing the DNC was one. And then on Saturday, there was this. College Game Day on ESPN. There were students standing outside during the show holding giant posters of my face from the movie with the man bun wig and all that. So here are some screenshots of that. We'll just go through these. You can see me lurking there in the background. Just go through some of the pictures so we can all appreciate there we are. There was multiple, my face was right there peeking in between. A little creepy, but this is my favorite one right here. This is my favorite. I'm just sneaking up behind Nick Saban to talk to him about his white privilege. And now, why are those kids holding those signs? Did we have something to do with that? Did we organize that? Did we intrude into ESPN's shot intentionally just to market our movie in such a crass way? I mean, did we do that? I'm not going to say we didn't do that, but I'm not going to say we did. I can't say. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows why those kids were holding those signs? Nobody knows. Nobody knows the answer to these questions. It's a mystery. I end up on CNN. I was just walking by. I didn't know there was going to be a camera there. Or I might not have known. End up on ESPN. All I can say is I would never try to hijack their broadcasts unless I had a good reason. Only for a good cause would I ever do something so self-serving and crass as that. But that was a lot of fun, and we appreciate it. Let's move to something a little bit less, quite a bit less fun, not fun at all. And really, I mean, mind-boggling, actually. in all the worst ways. So this is CNN. This is the CNN article. It says, the man who authorities say sat with a rifle in the trees where Donald Trump was golfing earlier this month in West Palm Beach, Florida, previously wrote a letter stating that this was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, in case that wasn't already clear. A witness told investigators that Ryan Wesley Ruth had dropped off a box at his home months before, which contained ammunition, a metal pipe, miscellaneous building materials, tools, 4 phones, and various letters. One letter addressed to the world said this: "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you. I tried my best and I gave it all the gumption I could muster. It's up to you now to finish the job. I will offer $150,000 to whomever can complete the job." Trump ended relations with Iran like a child, and now the Middle East has unraveled, the letter said. Okay. This is what the letter said. And it's, how do we know what the letter said? Well, because the feds released it to the media, and so now we know. Here's what I'm trying to figure out. This is what I'm wrestling with in my mind, okay? Because I'm old enough to remember, a year and a half ago with the Covenant school shooting. And you may recall the year that followed when we wanted to know what was in the manifesto. And they would never tell us. Until finally we got, well, not even the entire thing, but we got one journal that was finally a year later released by a local news outlet, not even, I don't think officially by the authorities at all. But for a year, they said, well, we can't release any of this shooter's writings. And why do they say they can't release it? Because it would be a danger to the public. And specifically, they told us that we can't release it because it may inspire other copycats to do the same thing if they could only read what this person said. And then we finally see the journal a year later, and we find out that there's nothing in it that could remotely inspire anyone, or it's not a blueprint, it's not anything, like she's not calling other people to follow, suit. It's just the ramblings of a mentally ill woman. But they were so worried about the possibility that it would inspire other shooters that they didn't want to release it. Okay. Now we have an attempted assassination of a former president. A week later, they release a letter that he wrote where he explicitly encourages and even offers to pay for other people to go kill Donald Trump. And they release that. So the ramblings of the trans-identified Covenant school shooter, couldn't release it, might inspire other shootings. This one we can release, even though he's directly trying to inspire other shooters and he puts a hit out on the president, and they release it. They publish the hit. He's putting out basically a Craigslist ad asking someone to shoot President Trump, and they publish it for him. If there was ever any doubt about whether or not these people want Trump to be killed, well, now there's no doubt in him. I mean, if you had any doubt up until this moment, you can no longer have any doubt. I cannot conceive of any legitimate reason to release this unless you actually just want someone to kill him, and you're not even trying to hide it anymore. Now, is Ruth going to be in a position where he can actually pay $150,000 to whoever tries next? No. But if you're the kind of person who would potentially try to kill a presidential candidate, you're probably not thinking that through. So this is enough inspiration for the next crazy person to try. And they published, I've never seen anything like this. Like I said, it's mind-boggling. I mean, you could say it's not very mind-boggling because we know exactly why they're doing it. But even so, this is just... we've never seen anything like it. The guy puts a hit out on President Trump. and they publish it. When have we ever seen it? I mean, really, when has this ever happened before? In any other scenario, if you had any kind of shooter, school shooter, mass shooter, anything like that, and they had writings where they were explicitly calling for others to follow suit, those writings would never see the light of day. And if they ever did, it would be months, years down the line. A week later, this is just insane. I mean, they want him dead. They just want him dead, and they don't even care if you know it. All right, let's move to this. This is from Fox News. Due south of Denver's homelessness crisis, a Colorado county has nearly eradicated its own unhoused population with a simple message to its citizens. Handouts don't help. Throughout Douglas County, there are about 70 signs with the message at intersections and roadways that were once popular hangouts for area panhandlers. Each sign directs citizens to douglashasheart.org, where they can redirect their donations to the Douglas County Community Foundation. The county took to print media and advertisements online to spread the message through the community. Republican Douglas County Commissioner Abe Layden said of the initiative, quote, "The thought dawned on me from a common sense standpoint. I saw a lot of people like my daughter feeling conflicted at the intersection. If you see somebody who appears to be down on their luck, it feels bad when you drive by and don't do something. But the flip side is we all know the stories of those who maybe did not use all the funds they received in the most appropriate way. Maybe it's going to food, maybe it's going to drugs. You don't know where the money's going." So they started putting signs up discouraging panhandlers at the intersection, and they've seen a massive drop in the number of panhandlers. What do you know? Between 2022 and 2024, Douglas County saw a steep drop-off in people living on its streets from 43 individuals to just 6, including those sleeping in their cars and in area shelters. Numbers decreased from 96 total homeless people to 69 per the count. And this is probably not all entirely because they put signs up discouraging panhandling or discouraging, residents from giving to panhandlers, but it's also not a coincidence, and it's a fascinating thing, isn't it? If you stop catering to panhandlers, you get much fewer panhandlers. And this is why really you shouldn't be handing money to the homeless at all. And I've done it. I used to do it all the time, actually. But more recently, I've stopped completely. And the reason that I've stopped completely is simple. Because if someone is panhandling on a street corner, there's a few things that might explain how they ended up in that position. The most probable situation, of course, is that they have a drug habit, that they're drug addicts. They're living on the street because they've dedicated their whole lives to their drug of choice. And obviously, if you give money to somebody like that, they're going to spend it on drugs. So you are just buying their next fentanyl fix for them or whatever their drug of choice is. The other possibility is that the person is extremely mentally ill, though obviously it could be both. Right? They could be drug addicts and also severely mentally ill. Their brain has been hopelessly destroyed by drugs. But again, giving cash to somebody like that is not going to help anything. But what if this is a person who's not a drug addict and not mentally ill? Well, then, most of the time, that's someone who should be able to get a legitimate job and take care of themselves. If you are a sober, mentally competent person and you're standing on a street corner all day, every day, asking for handouts, well, you could use that free time to apply for jobs, and you would certainly get one. Maybe not a great job. This probably isn't going to be a pursuit of happiness situation where you come in off the street and land a job as a stockbroker or whatever, but you could definitely get a job in fast food or something. I mean, anybody can. Unless you're totally mentally incompetent due to mental illness or drugs, which again would mean even more so that wads of cash are the last thing you need. But if you're not in that category, then you should be able to get a job. And you certainly can't say, well, I don't have time to put the time in to go and, really try to apply for as many jobs as I can. Well, you obviously do. You're standing at an intersection with a bucket. Like, you clearly have a lot of time. Which means that if a competent person, and I don't think there are many people in this category, Like the vast majority of these people are drug addicts. But if a competent person is panhandling all day, every day, it's because that's a more profitable occupation. And the solution is to make it unprofitable. Remove the incentives is the solution. Finally, we talked about celebrities speaking out on behalf of Kamala Harris. Here's one that I don't know if he's endorsed Kamala Harris yet. I'm sure he's voting for her, whether he's endorsed her or not. But the rapper Macklemore was performing at a concert in Seattle a few days ago, and he had a message, a very inspiring message for the crowd. Let's listen to this.
Straight up, say it. I'm not gonna stop you. I'm not gonna stop you. Yeah, America.
So, F America, he says, we'd bleep it out, of course, but F America, only he says the word. And this type of thing is irritating because obviously we know what this guy's doing. This is the cheapest kind of shock tactic available to somebody like this. Macklemore has not had a hit in like 10 years. He only ever had one hit, and it was whatever that was about. He did a song about thrift shops or Goodwill or something, if I remember correctly. I think it was this guy. And then he had a song about gay marriage around the same time. It's like back in 2012, 2013. And that's the last time anyone heard from him. So he's looking to reclaim some sliver of relevance, trying to remind the world that he exists, and he does it by dumping on this country, many such cases. And I know that most people, when it comes to this kind of thing, they say the best response is no response. We should ignore it. Don't take the bait. Just ignore this sad, irrelevant loser. And I get that. I understand that attitude. I understand that approach. But I don't really agree. I actually think we need to start going the other way on these sorts of things more aggressively. We need to start speaking up anytime somebody speaks this way about our country. And we need to say, like, hey, shut up, you ungrateful son of a... I mean, that's what we should say. Just like if someone stood on stage and cussed out your mother, even if they were doing it because they're starving for attention, would you sit there and say, well, I'm not going to dignify that with a response? No. He's cussing out your mother. And America's not our mother, but it is our motherland. And we should start thinking of it that way and treating it that way. Because this lack of gratitude for the country is endemic. It's a disease. We've allowed it to fester for far too long. We're now these mediocre hacks, these absolute talentless nothings who would have nothing without this country, are trying to maintain relevance by dumping on the country that they owe everything to. And, I'm not okay with that. It makes me angry, and it should make everyone angry. I think we've gone way too far in the direction of saying, oh, just ignore it. No, don't ignore it. Like, we don't have to spend hours talking about it, but you tell this spoiled little punk to go to hell. That should be the response. And that's not the response if someone has criticisms about the country, our culture, our government, certainly. Any criticism like that, that's valid. I have those criticisms all the time. Just like you might have criticisms for your own family. Now, you don't air those criticisms publicly in that case, but if you love your family, if you love your mom, and you see her doing something self-destructive, then of course you're going to speak up about it. But F America, that's not that. That's just total disregard, disdain, hatred, lack of gratitude. And I don't think we should be so tolerant of that kind of messaging, in my opinion. What is a wireless company? No, it shouldn't be a big data company. No, it shouldn't be a political action campaign. And no, a wireless company shouldn't make you believe that you only have two options for data, unlimited or unlimited. And both are stupidly expensive. A wireless company, pure and simple, should connect you to the people and things you love. A wireless company should give you lightning fast 5G coverage at a lower cost than you're paying today. And a wireless company should have an excellent customer service team based right here in America. who can help you by making switching easy. Essentially, all wireless companies should be like Pure Talk, but unfortunately they're not. So you should switch and switch right now. And if you do at puretalk.com/Walsh, you can also get 1 free year of Daily Wire Plus, where you can stream What is a Woman for free and watch me debunk yet another myth. Support Pure Talk, a wireless company who wants to be a wireless company and nothing more. And here's the kicker. They also support the same values you do. And remember, it takes courage to stand for your values. It takes even more to stand against those who try to silence you. puretalk.com/Walsh. That's puretalk.com/Walsh. I made a documentary that unexpectedly became a cultural phenomenon. What is a Woman is the film that started an important conversation. And here's the great part. You don't have to go to the theaters to watch it. Just join us as a Daily Wire Plus member, and you can watch it on demand anytime you want. The documentary explores one of the most debated questions of our time. It's been amazing to see how this journey to find an answer has resonated with audience across the world. Watch the film that started it all. What is a Woman? Go to dailywire.com/subscribe to join today. Use code DW30 for 30% off your new Daily Wire Plus membership. Now let's get to our daily cancellation. Well, in recent years, we've all watched with horror and amusement, but mostly horror, as American politics has begun more and more to resemble a trashy daytime talk show from the 90s. It's the Springerification of the political scene. Last week, we took another giant leap in that direction thanks to a public beef that broke out between CNN pundit Michael Eric Dyson and Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace. It began several days earlier when Mace was berated during a CNN segment for mispronouncing Kamala Harris's name. Let's watch that moment again.
That sounds like self-hatred and justification of white supremacy. And let me just say this, because this Congresswoman is a wonderful human being, but when you disrespect Kamala Harris by saying you will call her whatever you want, I know you don't intend it to be that way. That's the history and legacy of white disregard for the humanity of black people.
Oh, so now you're calling me racist.
I didn't say, I just said you weren't a
BS.
racist.
That is complete
You don't
BS.
have to intend racism to accomplish
you are intending that
Your
I am
disrespect
racist,
of Kamala
and
Harris
that
is part and parcel of a tradition
wrong.
of disrespect.
It's offensive,
Congresswoman,
and it's
why can't you just?
offensive.
I'm not calling you a racist. I'm
No,
telling you what the practice is
You
racist.
are. You absolutely are.
Disrespecting. No, what's disgusting is your disrespect of her.
Professor,
this gentleman said, I didn't know her name. He's trying to do it.
Is her disrespect of women. She doesn't know what a woman is. And if 25 years ago,
white women don't have the ability to tell black women who paid the price of blood to make this country what it is, to tell them they're not real women.
25 years ago,
they care for your babies.
25 years ago, I became the first woman to graduate from the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina. I fought my way through it.
So pronounce her name right.
Let me actually
pronounce her name right.
Kamala Harris. If
Kamala.
Kamala.
You said this
We don't call you Nancy
Mace.
It's Kamala. You're doing this on purpose, Congresswoman.
That's disrespectful.
You can't expect people to respect your
man
service
put on
if you
a
don't
skirt and
respect
walked
her.
that stage 25 years ago, she
You're
would
a
have
white
said
woman
it. She would have
disrespecting a
taken
black
that
woman. That is
achievement away from
problematic.
women.
So not exactly a clash of intellectual heavyweights. Michael Eric Dyson was calling Nancy Mace racist. Nancy Mace was denying that she was racist by pointing out that she was the first woman to graduate from the Military College of South Carolina, or whatever she said. Classic case of a Republican trying to defeat a racism charge by throwing her own victim points at it, which is a maneuver that never works and certainly didn't work here. We all thought that was the end of the feud between Nancy and Michael, or at least we hoped that whether it was the end or not, it would be the last time we had to hear about it. But late last week during a congressional hearing, Mace submitted text messages that she received from Dyson into the congressional record. And these were text messages sent by Dyson to Mace after that heated argument you just heard. Here's Fox News explaining the context for this revelation from Mace. Quote, Mace entered the text into the congressional record on Thursday as part of a discussion pointing out Democrats who have also mispronounced Harris's first name. Some of the vice president's backers have suggested her opponents deliberately say her name wrong. It's pronounced Kamala, not Kamala, as a subtle form of racism. Now, why was any of the taxpayers' time in Congress being spent on that at all? Why were they in Congress talking about how to pronounce Kamala Harris's name? I have no idea. It isn't explained in the article, and I don't care enough to Google it any further. Instead, let's just play the clip. Here it is.
I'd like to also enter into the record a screenshot of a text message I received from the esteemed professor from Vanderbilt, Michael Eric Dyson, after my CNN interview, begged me for photos. In this text, he says, after calling me racist on CNN, shh, don't tell anybody, we look good together, and sent me a kissy emoji.
Without
then
objection.
The guy says I'm gorgeous in all these photos. I don't think he's that bent out of shape on how anyone pronounces Kamala.
Nancy Mace then tweeted the screenshot of the text exchange, and as you can see in the screenshot, Dyson sent Mace the photos with a comment that said, shh, don't tell anybody, we look good together, laughing emoji, kissing emoji. She responded, ha, 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 ha. Then Dyson said, well, your gorgeousness makes the photos, so there's that. Then there's a smiley, like a blushing emoji. Now, we should note a few things here. Dyson is a married man, first of all. He's now on his third marriage, according to his Wikipedia, and there's no indications that he plans to stop at 3. Second, Dyson is 65 years old and using kissy emojis in text messages. It is not appropriate for a grown man to use emojis of any kind. As I've explained many times, emojis are for women and children. But a kissy emoji is the most egregious one of all. It's so bad that sending a kissy emoji should create a crisis in your marriage, even if you send it to your own wife. How can your wife respect a man who sends kissy emojis? And, of course, sending them to a woman who is not your wife only makes the situation worse, significantly worse, even. Third, the fact that this text exchange occurred only hours after these two were screaming at each other on cable news should not be seen as a positive sign that the two sides can put their differences aside or whatever. Instead, it should tell you that the vast majority of the seemingly contentious political bickering you see on TV is fake. It's all performance. These people are the political equivalent of professional wrestlers, or at least they were. But now Michael Eric Dyson really does hate Nancy Mace. He was fuming in an Instagram video when he responded to Mace's allegations, and he responded to them by confirming them and then digging the hole even deeper. So I want you to watch as he tries to explain the context of these texts. Watch.
This is the text exchange. I sent her, Abby Phillip, the host of the show, suggested we take pictures. I said, let's take a picture. She said, Abby said, when you post it, then tag me too, and then we'll have fun. Because the whole point was two bipolar opposites, Michael Eric Dyson on one side, Nancy Mace on the other. So I sent her and she said, great pick. And I said, shh, don't tell anybody, we look good together, with a laughing face and a kissy face. And my point was, shh, don't tell anybody, because we are bipolar opposites. You're on one side of the spectrum and I'm on the other side of the spectrum. And she said, ha, 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 ha.
Notice how he tries to breeze past the kissy face situation. There's a laughing face and a kissy face. Anyway, my point was, hang on, what was that? Back up on the kissy face. You sent the kissy face. Why did you? How old are you? Why did you send a kissy face? Why is that even in your? How do you even? I don't even know where to find the kissy face emoji, even if I wanted to send one. And then he repeatedly declares that he's the bipolar opposite of Nancy Mace. This man's a college professor who uses the phrase bipolar opposite, apparently unaware that the correct term is polar opposite. Bipolar opposite would mean that you both suffer from bipolar disorder in opposite ways, which I have no doubt is true, but I don't think that you meant to say that, Michael. Let's just continue for some reason.
And I said, well, your gorgeousness makes the photo, so there's that. And a little smiley face. Again, I'm just saying that trying to be nice to her in the belief and the effort that if I'm nice to her and I prove that we don't have any bitter consequences from our fracas on television, that we can be relatively kind to each other, and I'm being nice to her. These are other people that I interacted with recently, my friends, some of them. My friend Allison, I said, nice, you look gorgeous. Look out, Texas, here she comes, talking about that. Nell Painter, a world-renowned historian, on her Instagram, I posted after she posted about she's a Mary Ellen von der Heyden Fellow in Letters of the American Academy in Berlin in public. I said, gorgeous and brilliant all at once. A heart with a face that's smiling with hearts, and a kissy face, right? I said, keep up the great work. Then there is my friend Terry, who I was giving tickets to for the Democratic National Convention. I said, you know I can if I will. Everybody and their mama want these tickets for today. You look gorgeous as always. Well, I congratulated her on the interview she did with Kamala Harris. And then on another interview, saying people of color are eating cats, that's racism. I was quoting her. I said, thank you, Dana Bash. Besides being brilliant and courageous, you also look gorgeous. And then I put a power hand and a smiley, a face with hearts. I ain't hitting on Nancy Mace.
Okay, so he's sending the smiley face with hearts and a kissy face. What does a smiley face with hearts look like? I'm trying to find it on my... Oh, that... Okay, so it's a blushing smiley face with hearts floating around. This is what a 65-year-old man is sending people. Is anyone else outraged by that alone? I'm the only one left. I'm the only man left in America who understands the problem with emojis. Like, every day, it's another man who I thought was on my side on this. I get a text message, and there's an emoji. You know, 10 years ago, there were no men sending emojis, not a single one. And now they all do. It doesn't matter how old they are. The boomers are doing it. They're the worst offenders. So, anyway, just to review, this man is offering all of this information willingly in defense of himself. His defense is that he's constantly sending kissy face emojis to his female colleagues and calling them gorgeous. So that's his defense, is that he does it all the time. He flirts with lots of women, which means he's not really flirting with this woman. That appears to be his excuse. But you seem to be confused, Michael. You're only proving that you're a creepy, weird old man, which proves Nancy Mace's point. It doesn't refute it. And I say that, by the way, as someone who, you know, in the past has been very critical of the excesses of the Me Too movement. And there have been many cases of men whose careers were destroyed for innocuous jokes or innocent, if perhaps awkward compliments. But sending kissy faces to women you aren't married to and calling them gorgeous is quite obviously well outside the bounds of what would be considered appropriate. There's never a scenario where a married man should be texting women who aren't his wife and calling them gorgeous, especially not with smiley faces and hearts floating around them. Though again, he shouldn't be sending the smiley face and heart to anyone at all. So Dyson has only further implicated himself here. He's proved the opposite of what he presumably set out to prove. Most of all, he's proved again that political discourse in this country is dominated by weird creeps who are also, and we cannot state this strongly enough, very, very dumb. And that is why Michael Eric Dyson is today canceled. That'll do it for the show today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Godspeed.
Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up, I never thought much about race. It never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me. Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey.
If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover.
They gonna say I'm racist.
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Here's my certification. What you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you in this field. Is America inherently racist?
The word inherent is challenging there.
I want to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument.
America is racist to its bones.
So inherently.
Yeah, this country is a piece of
white
folks,
white
trash, white supremacy, white woman, white boy.
Is there a black person around here? What's a black person right here? Does he not exist?
They gonna say I'm racist.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Matt.
It's had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
They gonna say you racist.
In theaters now, rated PG-13.